Hi guys, Alicia with Working Dog Radio, Torchlight Canine, and Oil Capital Canine Fund. Thank you guys for tuning in to another awesome episode. Please check us out on YouTube. It's a new format for us. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. We're going to start doing some training videos and some other cool stuff on there. So we would really appreciate your follow on there. We'd like to take a second to thank our amazing sponsors. Without them, none of this would be possible. So guys, please check out Kinetic Dog Food, 513-615-6904. They are amazing. American Aluminum Accessories. They make all things canine insert. They've got some new heat alarms. Please check them out. Give them a call at 800-277-0869. Horizon Structures, everything mild to wild in a dog kennel. They have it. They will drop it off at your door. Give them a call at 888-447-4337. If you guys haven't checked out Highland Canine Training yet, what are you waiting for? Jason and Aaron are amazing. They've got all kinds of courses, classes, and schools going on. Please check out Highland Canine Training at Tactical Police, the letter K, the number 9, training.com. Ray Allen Manufacturing, right there in Colorado. Everything is sewn there. They are amazing. They do so many collaborations with so many of the actual working canine guys in our industry, including me. Give them a shout. Check them out at rayallen.com and use the discount code WDR10RAY for 10%, all things Ray Allen. Dogtra.com. If you have an e-collar, if you use an e-collar, if you have a working dog or a pet dog, check out Dogtra. They've got all of the products that you need. You can go to dogtra.com and use discount code WDR10 for 10% off a single item over $200. Enjoy the episode. We'll be back. Thanks.
All right, Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bite from a very steamy Tulsa, Oklahoma. I am Ted Summers. It's about 95 and the heat index is like 115 or something. It's awful. And with me, as always, from Canton, Ohio, in the funhouse is Eric Stambro. Eric, what's up?
Nothing. I can't figure this light situation out in this fucking funhouse, man. If I turn this light off, turn the other one on, it glazes on my head the other way. I need to bring my ring light down here. But I'm currently using that for my OnlyFans. But
exactly.
Just kidding. So, but there's another way to turn another light on. You can't see me; it's too dark. So right now I'm just this big shiny orb.
Oh man, we're gonna have Alicia send you one of those ring light things like I'm using. That way your head looks all shiny.
I have one. It's just at the house. I keep forgetting it.
Yeah, now my head looks all shiny because I'm sweaty, like I've been at P Diddy's house, getting all babied oiled up.
Yeah,
so he's in jail.
No bond. Yeah, I got a handler school going on, just 3 dogs. It's going pretty good. It's going really good. I put some things up on my Van S Canine Instagram here and there just to show guys that it doesn't take, 25 weeks to get a 2-minute downstay. And
nope.
Which I'm in complete transparency. It used to take me forever to get that stupid 2-minute stay.
I have our guys. I've got 13 handlers in school, and they do that as their homework. It's not rocket science. I mean,
I just used to always... Because the way I was taught, we always called the dogs off of the down instead of just going and keeping them there. So,
and then you have a problem with them breaking. Who knew?
Yeah, and it's the same. Then in each class you teach, you have the same problems, and you think, "Man, this sucks. These fucking working dogs. No one wants to stay." That's just because you're not doing it right. That's all. So, anyways, yeah, we started leg bites. We did so. I had my buddy Travis Lloyd come down. Travis comes down at least once or twice a week. Does some really high level decoy stuff for me. Cause when he's not here, it's mostly me doing it. The guys are helping too, but, it's tough with only 3 dogs to have a handler decoy because 2 dogs, then we got to wait for him to change and then go his dog or, it's whatever. So I end up doing it and I'm old and, get kind of sick of it. So Travis comes down and does really good work and he's been helping blow these dogs up. So we started legs today, and they did good. They all did really good. Got them rocking and rolling there. They're not obviously like up to speed on legs completely, but they're biting it to where he could walk with the dog on the leg bite, and none of them transitioned up. So that was always good.
That's always the first, like, when we get sport decoys that work law enforcement dogs that are used to working, especially ring guys, Mondio and French ring guys. I always warn them. I'm like, watch your hands. These dogs are way more comfortable up top. Like that
and
shit where
with
that shit where you're fucking around under their neck and stuff. I'm like, nope, you're gonna end up wearing them. So just like relax on that for a second. And when I raise dogs for police work for dual purpose, I start them on legs so they're comfortable, and then inevitably, and I think you've said this in the past, like pretty much all the dogs that get comfortable on legs for whatever reason, it happens in actual deployments, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, I didn't have to jump. That was right in front of me.
Yeah.
So anyways, if you guys can see, it's just Ted and I again on this episode. We've done one of these recently. So Ted, what are we doing tonight?
Well, I'm going to talk about kind of the generalization process I use for building searches and proximity alerts and the timing of how we do it. There's been some discussion recently on the interwebs about some people talking about how we keep dogs quiet during building searches, the need to have them quiet, the need to have some obedience and control, and like how we work all that stuff into it. And I think I was thinking back at how many times we've talked about this, and it always comes up as like an ancillary topic with one of our guests, like, oh, well, this happened, and I tell like a short anecdote or something. And I don't know that I've ever talked about this at length on this show. I know how I have on another podcast, but when we do building searches, I guess at first I want to kind of back up and how I was taught to do building searches a long time ago in the early 2000s. In the early 2000s, how do we teach building searches, right? Or there are some people that still do this today. You stem the dog up with a bite, or he sees the decoy in a suit or like a hearts of whatever, and then he runs into the building, right? So it's a hot search, meaning the dog 100% knows that there's a decoy in the building. He just fucking runs around looking for him, and then he bites him, right? So building searches at their core are a detection exercise for human odor. That's really all it is. And it always kind of like makes me chuckle when I go to seminars and I'll talk to guys and they're like, oh, he doesn't track, but he does building searches really well. And I'm like, it's the same odor, right? It's fucking human odor, bro. He understands human odor. It's a contextual problem. So 20 years ago or however long, we would send dogs into the building after a decoy and just fucking run in there and fucking smash him and whatever else. And the prevailing trend or the prevailing thought or myth or whatever you want to talk about was that the dog would be motivated to hunt because he knew that there was a bite involved. And at that point, the building searches really don't become a hunting exercise. They become a biting exercise that is paired to a bite reward. So inevitably we get the dogs that start to come uncapped very, very early on. So, modern, we'll pause that story. When I train handlers and train trainers, how I personally do it. I remind them that dogs hunt with their eyes, their ears, and their nose in that order. If you've ever been to an HRD, you've heard me say that. If you've been to my handler schools, my trainer schools, you hear me fucking hammer that into you. So they hunt with their eyes, their ears, and their nose, even though their nose is the most powerful of the senses that they have, right? That's why we use them, because they find stuff with their nose, whether it's human beings or explosives, narcotic, whatever their target odor is. And we have to convince them to use their nose. Now, during the selection process, when we select dual purpose dogs, what do we test? We test prey. Odor is not a prey exercise. Odor is almost exclusively audio and visual. So it runs very, very closely to the reason that, dogs are prey animals. The reason they chase decoys and chase tennis balls, and they use their eyes, and there's a whole thing. So they will fucking cheat if they can. If they don't have to use their nose and they can take a shortcut to get there because the visual is way faster, right? So I have to kind of, game the system a little bit, knowing how they hunt and knowing the background of why they're hunting and what we're asking them to do. We manipulate the environment a little bit so that they have to use their nose. So typically how this works is we start our imprinting and tracking. And I think the last episode we did on this type of thing, which, by the way, the reason we're doing this again is because that episode got like a shit ton of downloads. So I was, Alicia and Eric and I were like, oh, okay, well, maybe we should do another one. So it's a topic that I've kind of talked about a lot, but I don't think in the context that we're doing now. So anyway, that's why we're doing one of these again. So contextually, what I'm asking the dog to do, we pick up at the end of the last episode where I talk about how we imprint tracking, move to hard surface, and then move to variable surface. And then I start teaching a proximity alert. So I teach articles and I teach tracking as like its own skill, right? That's not tied to bites. And then towards the end, we teach proximity alerts as a completely separate exercise to tracking before I tie them together. And while I'm teaching proximities, I'm also teaching building searches at the same time, because it's essentially the same exercise without wind. And even you can have air movement you can have air currents in a building and whatever else. And that's kind of beyond the scope of this conversation. But so we'll start out by proximity alerts and by we often give proximities or confirmations in building searches. So while we're setting up proximities, we walk a dog to a familiar area and we're using the wind in our favor. So we're downwind of the dog and we're asking the dog to perform a track where I know there is no track, there is no odor, there is nothing for him to follow. So with the negative reinforcement that I use with the e-collar, the dog is frantically hunting for odor. And when we have enough wind and enough odor out, the dog will naturally pick his head up and look at where my decoy is at. Once I get that change of behavior, once I get the Stevie Wonder thing, he picks his head up and he turns and looks, I mark it. I simply say, show me your hands. And our decoys know when they hear show me their hands, they make themselves available to the dog. They pop out. Dog's like, no shit, you've been there the whole time. Then we allow them to bite, right? So it's not tied to a track at this point yet. At the same time, we then, the same day or close to as possible, maybe the next morning, we'll go to a building. And at this point, if you go back after this episode, go back and listen to the most recent episode we did with Jerry Bradshaw from Blue Line and Myrtle Beach, and talking about his capping exercises, right? And using a bite table. And I think he put something up on Patreon. I have to go look at his Facebook page. But anyway, he's done it before. And it's a very good discussion on the capping drill and how the capping on the table translates to downing in the threshold. And I'm not going to talk about why we shouldn't be downing in thresholds, but whatever, that's a whole other conversation. But for training purposes, this is how we start the exercise. The dog contextually is brought to a building where he's done odor before. He's done narcotic odor or explosive odor. And we down the dog at the threshold, plots, right? He plots, he downs. He's not in drive. He's just sitting there. No big deal, right? He's like, all right, whatever. So we make the announcement. We give the call out, place the dog, make stuff known. Dog will find you and he will bite you. Inside the building, my decoy, when they hear the announcement, will knock. They will not make a human sound. They'll literally just drop a book or they'll hit something that makes a noise. And all of a sudden the dog is like, he'll look, he'll cast, he'll look. And at this point also, I'm also working on obedience and a down at a distance. We've stopped teaching dogs to just run the full length of the building, just fucking run around in there with their not a leash on when they're not under control, just fucking nuke everything and tear everything up and can't direct them anywhere. They just kind of go wherever because they've been allowed to fucking just go nuts and just run around looking for something to bite. So at this point, the dog investigates. Send him in on a long line, plots. He downs out in front of me. We sneak up. Place the dog, make yourself known. The dog will find you, who bite you. Another confirmation. Dog investigates. He's like, what the fuck is this noise? So we're really working with classical conditioning at this point, right? We have we have a verbal mark and then an environmental stimulus. And those two things are paired together. Inadvertently, what we're doing is training the dog that when I make an announcement or when he hears that command, when he hears that challenge, he should shut the hell up because he should be able to hear something. He should be able to cheat. And you can't cheat if you're fucking barking. So while this is also going on, we're doing table work and we out and down. The dogs understand that the down position is a capped position and we're building. So as we move through the building and the confirmations get quieter and quieter as we get closer and closer, and I have it set up so that the decoy is accessible, but not visible, if that makes sense. Like he's not behind the door. We're not sniffing doors yet. We're not doing any of that shit. We're literally just learning to investigate sounds and learning to cap ourselves in a hunting behavior. So now we're investigating sounds and pairing it with odor. Sometimes I'll see dogs that because of the work for the proximity alerts outside and some of the tracking work, the human odor has already become obvious, or has already become important to them. If you go back and listen to the episode we talk about where we talked to Brad Gillespie, he said, detection work in general is making, anomalous odor meaningful. So literally we've made human odor meaningful. And we choose places where I know there's not any just human odor hanging out. So the dog kind of self-discovers where this decoy is at. And he's like, holy shit, you're standing here. And it's on. He bites, we do the whole thing. We out the dog manually. I don't ever do verbals on this part yet. And then I just pull him away and I let him stay and drive, and I'll down, not pull him away from the decoy, but I'll down him. Right. And then we use the trick that we learned from our buddy Todd Mona, where I have the decoy leave the room. Now we backtrack the decoy through the building. Police the dog, make yourself know the dog will find you and he will bite you. Couple of reps. And now we're already loaded. The dogs have paired the behavior. They've paired everything together. And now we're in fucking hunt mode. And now we have gotten to a point where the dog understands the skill set, and the decoys continue to confirm for us as we move through the building after each announcement. And it's always very light. And it's one of those deals where you'll see it in our dogs that are mature, that have been, out 2 or 3 years. And we start making announcements and they're dead quiet. We'll send them into the building before we make an announcement into the front room. And obviously you can see in the front room, right? And there's nothing in there. Not going to fucking bite anybody. So we'll send them into the front room and down them and make the announcements way, way out of the building, like on a 100-foot line, and wait to see if there's any confirmation from in the building and see if we have a change of behavior on the dog. But from the beginning, I make proximities and I make building searches about hunting and not about biting. And then we start using variability too. Like I'll do blanks on building searches and I'll reward good hunting behavior. So if we have a door, so I've got a long hallway with a bunch of doors. What do I want them to do? I want them to sniff door seams. When we start teaching that, within, 8 to 10 sessions of what I've just talked about, we start introducing that, right? Like, now pick the hot door, buddy. Right. So we go and he learns to pick the hot door. He learns to bark, right? He learns to bark. He learns that if he barks at the hot door, he gets the bite. We start to vary it by pulling the dog off or recalling him to a toy or returning him to a handler. And then, like Eric mentions, the power of twos. I don't reward the recall. I reward the heal. Like I'll heal for 2 seconds and then reward the healing behavior. But then send him back, let him bark, and then let him bite. And then we have a blank. Like, well, we go back to the same building with the same 12 doors, and the dog sniffs every one. And when he gets to like the 10th one, I'll just lob a tug over his head for hunting. So it becomes more about the act of finding human odor than it does about biting. And it makes life so much easier on new handlers and handlers in general when we're not fucking yelling at dogs. We're not yelling at each other. And the dogs are just there. They're hanging out like they're waiting for commands. Rather than allowing them to contextually express that drive in that context, we let them express it on the right table. Like if you listen to the episode with Bradshaw, he talks about it's super important to be able to cap a dog that they have to fully express that drive. Right. I just don't like letting them do that during building searches. Like, I get it. Like, go ahead and do it on the bite table. Like, go fucking crazy. Like, do the Instagram photos with spit coming out of his mouth and all that crazy shit. Fine. Express the drive there and we can cap it here. So, and then what it allows us to do during building searches is use a building search as a framework and a background, because the hunting behavior becomes secondary, or the biting behavior becomes secondary to anything else. And it allows us to run control work. It allows us to run detection work. It allows us to do all kinds of things in the same building without contextually it being like a fucking like shit show every time I get the dog out of the car. When I say police with a dog, they come unglued. And right. So I can't tell you the number of times I go to seminars, group trainings, where the second we stack up on a door and they start yelling, the dog's yelling too. And this is how I started to prevent that from happening. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, it's cool, dipshit. But I have a dog that's 5 years old and he's had thousands of reps doing this in training and he won't shut the fuck up during training. How do you fix it? So every time I get that question, I kind of look at people and depending on who I'm talking to, I usually have something funny to say because I'm funny. But I also say, I was like, just tell him to search, just cast him in. Don't say anything. Pull him up on the door. Don't use the predicate command. Don't use any of the predicate bullshit, and say something else, or don't say anything at all, and have some way to communicate with your decoy so that he gives you a confirmation from deep in the building. And it doesn't take many reps for them to learn, especially if you train in the same places over and over again. A lot of times dogs go to a certain building. They're like, yo, I know what's up. Like, I know where all the hiding places are, everything else. So instead of doing the same shit over and over again, just alter it slightly by what you're doing. Don't say anything. Stack up, stand there, talk to your buddies for a second, tell the dog to search. Right? Our release command for us is yes, because the dogs are capped at the door. We're making announcements. When we want them to search, we just say yes. They take off. Done deal. Right? If I want them down, plats, they hit the deck. We sneak up, we talk, whatever. But in the early phases of this, if you have a dog that is super fucking unhinged and always unhinged, if he's there and you're not saying anything, he's already starting whining. Have the decoy make noise in the building, he will shut the fuck up. 1000%. He will shut up and he will keep his mouth shut. And for a long time, don't say anything. Stack up on the door. Do everything that you would normally do, but don't say anything unless you're talking to the dog. And you would be surprised at how quickly you can reverse it. I have sold some dogs that were so vocal that they made noise in their sleep. They're shepherds. Fucking German shepherds. And this 100%, they were dead silent during building searches. Last night we were running building searches in the rain at a shithole that my landlord's redoing. He owns a bunch of property around the kennel. It's a 2-story building, and I've got a couple dogs in this class that are very vocal, and they're dead silent until they find the decoy. Then they come unglued. But the trick is, because it's a hunting exercise, we can get him back. So the dog gives us, like, we send him into a room, we down, we get a change of behavior. The dog flashes his head to the right, pops up out of the down and starts to initiate contact by himself. And here, he comes back. And then now we're in drive. Now we're uncapped. Now we can start making commands. And even then, right, we can still say, hey, show me your hands, show me your hands, show me your hands. And they are still not that loud. They're not that vocal. What I'll do is I'll have the decoy move, and I make sure that they're in a position where they can be seen. And then I'll have the decoy move just out of sight, maybe in the same room, but in a different position. The dog comes in. They're like goldfish. He's like, dude, you were just here. Where the fuck are you? And then it is on. And then it's the hunting behavior again. And it becomes a self-rewarding exercise. So a lot of it has to do with the classical conditioning of how many people listening to this have a dog that the minute that the dispatch comes on radio, or you fucking turn your lights and sirens on, same shit, right? And they're just on, they're ready to go. And a lot of that is classically conditioned, and it's fixed in a different method, but it's a very similar thing. So inadvertently, I think people doing the building searches, how we were taught to do them in the early 2000s, has created this behavior. These dogs already have a shit. They've been selected. So at the point that you're sending this dog into a building, you've already put weeks, if not months, into training, and you've already put several days into selection. You know that this dog has drive. You know that this dog has the ability to hunt. He does not need any fucking help. He can find them, I swear to God. And the core of the problem is teaching them that this is a hunting exercise and not a biting exercise. And running blanks is just as important as running hot finds. So, I mean, to me, it's fairly straightforward. The fixing it is a little more of an invasive process, but there's no e-collar involved. Like, I don't fucking blast dogs or anything like that. It's self-discovery. And if you you tweak just slightly how you're approaching it from the onset, you'll probably see some pretty dramatic changes pretty quickly. But the trick is you have to have good communication with your decoy. One way that I'll do it is I'll give my decoy an e-collar, and I'll just have them put it in their pocket. And with dogs that are noisy already, and when I want them to confirm for me, I just hit the pager. And they know that that's the nonverbal signal to give me a knock in the building. And the dog's like, what the fuck was that? And we cut them loose on a long line. I don't require a ton of obedience at that point, just because typically those dogs are already loaded, right? So they're already loaded from the announcements. And then what is everybody saying? Phooey, quit, quiet, plots, blank, whatever the fuck. It's any number of things, right? So we're already loaded. We don't have a way to reward. We don't really have a way to punish. So we're just kind of fucking stuck in no man's land and stuck in the middle of the 4 quadrants. And we have to have a way to overcome multiple years of classically conditioned response to an outside stimulus of the handler making the announcement. And you have to remove the stimulus. If you remove the stimulus, most of the time, the dog contextually will not move that deep into drive, and then we've got a place to start. But the minute that you say, place the dog, make yourself known, sheriff's office canine, you're like, okay. So that's how we started. Several people have inboxed me on the tracking thing from last time, and I've emailed and done some other shit too. But so, yeah, cool. I mean,
the funny thing is so the dog's barking and the hand's like, shut up, quiet. Yeah. Quiet's the one. Quiet.
Ooey. Yeah.
And the dog's like, sweet, you're yelling too? Like,
yeah, cool. We're just fucking all yelling. It's like a concert.
Let's do it.
Yes.
But then what guys also don't really realize, so they have, it's always the same. The dog's barking. They'll yoke them, quiet, put the dog down, and then they send. So now we're getting into a routine where the dog's like, I'm going to bark. He's going to say quiet, and then we're going to go. And they don't even realize kind of how they're setting this whole thing up. So the dog's it's not going to stop the dog from barking, because barking gets you to say quiet, which gets him to go. So you have to do some things like Ted's describing, to just quiet is what gets him to go, not your saying quiet. Right. So,
and even then, it's not the quiet, it's the confirmation in the building.
Right.
And it's like, it's the noise in the building. They're like, what the fuck was that? And if they're investigating with their eyes, their ears, and their nose in that order, right? And typically with experienced dogs, especially if they know the layout of the building, I'll have the decoy in a place that is where they can't find them.
Yeah.
Or not necessarily find them. They can't access them without going through something. So the decoy is protected. And so the dog can't self-reward. So we get to choose when and how we reward the dog. And they will self-discover, and you'll see them very quickly default to ears and eyes. And if they default to ears, they have to be quiet, and they can't hear if they're barking. Mm-hmm. And it's the hack that we use, because the dogs are not there. I mean, they're smart, but they're not like, they're super predictable. I'll put it that way. Yeah. And this works on super high drive Malinois. This works on super high drive Shepherds. This works on Dutchies. This works on so you'll enjoy this. I have a pointer in this class, single purpose, and he tracks single purpose narc with tracking for silver and amber alerts. But he dead ass, his proximity alert is he will point at a decoy like they're a bird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's super obvious. We were at a track yesterday or 2 days ago, and we were out rolling through the field, and like, he caught a gust of wind on my decoy, and I mean, his head snapped and he turned into a full on point. And I didn't teach him to do it, but he just, it's a pointer. It's in the name, but it was cool to watch. So I'm like, okay, I mean, so I'll take it.
I'll ask some viewer type questions as they're thinking about it. So, the tapping so they make a non-human noise.
Right.
And maybe if the dog's not really kind of putting that together, do you start adding like a or a human noise?
Yeah. So if I can't get the dog to like investigate, which is usually pretty rare, I'll either close the distance so that they can hear it, or I'll have the decoy make a human noise that's it's like the decoy noise. Every dog knows what that means, right? Whatever. Yeah. But just something that's audible, that's a mouth noise, that's not like language, like, hey, we don't do that. But yeah, if they'll investigate. And, when you talk about operant and classical conditioning, when we're training with clicker training, like at its core, clicker training is literally positive reinforcement. Well, and it can be a bridge command. We're not going to go there, but in the traditional sense, it's, you perform the behavior, we click it, and then we give the dog food. It's pretty straightforward, right? Mm-hmm. Marker training, or we use the word yes. It's marker training. So the behavior that we're not really marking a behavior at this point, we're marking announcements from the handler. So what I want the dog associating is that when I say something into the building, that there'll be a response from in the building from somebody that he's looking for, which is what he's trying to do, is game the system. When we start doing proximity alerts with our handler schools, the dogs learn real fast that if they look at where we're looking, especially when somebody says, show me your hands, and I tell the handlers, like, if you see the decoy before the dog does, just say it, show me your hands, and fucking point your finger gun at them. Or if we're running full scenarios, we'll have blue guns and, blue or blue bolt sim guns. And we'll tell them and say, if you see it, light them up with the flashlight, point it out, and the dogs learn really, really fast to cheat. They're like, where are all the people looking when they hear, hey, show me your hands. And when dogs get picked up, handlers are like, what's his list of commands and whatever else? What's his bite command? I'm like, show me your hands. And they look at me. I'm like, you think I'm kidding? Just wait. If you're tracking, and if you're listening to this and you've had this happen to you, you're tracking along, right? You've got your backup guys with you, and you're like, don't look at the dog, look for bad guys. If you get the dog in the area, and all of a sudden, like, one of your backup guys sweeps this dude under a bush with a flashlight and comes back and says, yo, motherfucker, show me your hands. And the dog, that's the first thing they're going to say. They're not going to go to you and say, hey, I think he's over here. Like, send the dog over here. They're not going to do that. They're going to be like, show me your fucking hands right now. Get the fuck on the ground. Whatever it is, something, right? They're going to do something, and they're going to not give a shit about the dog. The dogs learn quickly that show me your hands is a bite command, because that's the first thing somebody's going to, it's some version of that, or get on the ground, or suspect show me, or something like that. And they learn super, super fast that it's game on. And that's when we convert from a hunting exercise to a biting exercise.
I like the use of the e-collar pager to notify your guy when to make noise. Because I'm telling you right now, I'm yelling. Yeah, I'm going, go ahead and make a noise. And then I'm interjecting myself in there.
I'll do that too. Like, when the dogs start to figure out what's going on, you'll hear me say to my decoy, if you train with me, you'll hear me say, police for the dog. And I'm watching the dog. If they start getting loaded, I'll tell the decoy, I'll say, police for the dog, no confirmation on this one. Show me, or make yourself known, the dog will find you and he will bite you, and they're quiet. Or if they're kind of fucking around and they still haven't, I'm like, police for the dog, make sure you confirm. And then we get the knock. The Justin Rigney thing was the one that the pager thing. I think he told me about it, or I saw it somewhere. Justin did it.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. So, and they have it back there. If you put it in their hand, turn it to 127 and just fucking blast them.
So I know. Every dog is, can be a little bit different. But if the person is wondering on average, how many reps do you think it takes on average for you to be able to stop making a little noise?
It can be as few as 4 or 5. Mm-hmm. And they learn real fast that, okay, this is what we're doing. So, and like I said, it's most powerful if you have access to a building that the dog has never been in before. That is super powerful, because at this point we're doing all kinds of things where we're kind of shuttling through some environmental exposure. We're shuttling through some other exposures that the dogs may not have been exposed to. And we're asking them they're taking in a lot of information, right? Like, they're not running on autopilot. It's not like running the same sim in a fucking game, like on video games. Yeah. So there's multiple things going on, and they're actively processing things that are coming in, and they naturally want to investigate sounds anyway. So we're like, hey, what was that? And, they're kind of come over there, and I don't say anything. I don't say, what is it, buddy? I mean, I'm literally dead silent. I just sit there and wait. And inevitably they figure it out. And the self-discovery portion makes it super powerful for the dog, rather than having to run a million fucking reps and, chase the dude into the building on a hot search. Yeah. So if we have a dog that's young that won't hunt, it's probably a selection problem. Sometimes dogs come in and they have a ton of obedience, and they haven't been exposed to hunting behaviors because it's not part of the process for the Europeans to train them for. And it is for dope work or whatever, for detection, but not in this context. So you get a lot of dogs that have a lot of dependence on the handler, because that's where the reward history has come from for most of their life, which is another problem. So this also helps that ranging out. They get them a little more independent and out in front, and, we literally allow them to self-discover. I've seen it done, like a dog I'm thinking of, Damon's dog, Aries. He was really fast. I think we went from never have done a building search to doing like 30-foot line searches with controlled limited penetration downs and dedicated hunting behavior and being quiet in 5 days.
Nice. Good.
So no, there was a bunch of obedience done on the back end, like where you do it on the slick floors, and like how you did your thing where you talk about the call off on slick floors. I do that with a toy, right? Where I'll throw the toy and then ask them to down under e-collar pressure and slight line tension and then either release and recall. So that's how I teach that portion of it. So that's done before. So contextually the dog is like, yeah, okay, I can do that before they figure it out. So it becomes, you know, they don't do offline searches until they are way deep in handler school. And I'm doing those for like super deep finds and silent recalls. So once the dog makes contact, you know, the LAPD thing where they give one command, I think they give a, what is it? The heel command, or it's a down command, right? So the dog, there was Gooseby was talking about it the other day on Facebook, but they have to out and recall and come to the heel position with one command, which is a pretty cool trick.
Yeah, and the power of threes.
Right.
Or power of twos.
Speaking of which, this is what you're talking about.
Actually, I talked about power of twos last time. And
the three tack thing, though. You're doing the tracking deal.
Oh, the threes. Yeah. Yes. The triple track. So real quick, going back to the power of twos that we talked about on the last episode that Ted and I did it by ourselves, I just did a seminar, and so many of the dogs got their head cleared out on that on their out, because like the handler was saying the out and the dog was getting vocal, but then when we added the down, they were never vocal on the down, and eventually they could just say down and the dog would out and lay down. Because remember from the last episode, when you pay the second thing becomes the way to get paid. So the out just becomes a way to get to the down, which is what pays. So
same thing with a recall off a bite.
Yeah, it clears it up real well. But when you do the recall off the bite and they recall back to you, make sure that the decoy comes in and rewards the dog next to you for the recall. Pay him where you want him to be.
Or ask him to heal for 10 feet and then pay him for healing.
Yeah. Just add something else into it.
If you pay them for just the recall, if you do the whole ring thing where they like get that fucking super snappy recall and they come back expecting to hit a tug or a toy as they're getting back to you. Like I see the fucking Instagram videos where, you know, we're seeing how fast we can get the dog to run in front of the camera, and which is fine. You know, I mean, it has its place, but that is where dudes' handguns get grabbed out of their fucking hands,
or the dog e-collar remote, or
yeah. So they're like, "Yo, what's in your hand? What you got for me?"
So the thing I'm going to talk about is thing.
I'm going to talk about it after the break, though. But yeah, what are you talking about?
Let's go ahead and take a break. The thing I call the triple track. It's a great way to blow up your tracking. So we'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's me again, back with some more awesome sponsors. I want to talk a little bit about Ray Allen Canine Manufacturing. Who else in our industry allows us to come to them with ideas as handlers, as dog professionals, and say, you know what, I think I would like to make this, or wouldn't this be a good idea? And they will actually sit down with you and talk to you about your designs. I've got a collab with them on a muzzle, on a leash and a collar. They're amazing to work with. Their products are top notch. They're made in America, in Colorado, and we love Matt. So give them a holler, check them out on socials at Ray Allen, the letter K, the number 9, or visit them online at rayallen.com and use our discount code WDR10 RAY for 10% off. Guys, have you visited Dogtra lately? If you go to Dogtra, they have their new online portal, and it's really cool, very user-friendly. You don't have to call them and order them anymore. You can go to mydogtra.com, and they have everything there. You can set up an online profile. They keep your orders. They know what you've used. We use everything, their ball droppers and poppers. We use their e-collars, their 1900S hands-free for our officers, their Q and their 280 for our pet clients. We use all of their products all the time. Eric travels around and does seminars specific to Dogtra, so you can have him come in and teach a class on how to use it. Check them out, dogtra.com, and follow them on their socials. We love kinetic dog food. Ted has been using the large format. It makes excellent tracking treats. He uses it for teaching article indication. It's these huge nuggets of food that you can lay down, grab, put in your trainer's pouch. The quality is excellent. We love Debbie and Dave. We have a great relationship with them. They want to know you. They will talk to you about nutrition, about what your dog's needs are. They'll help get you set up. Their food is available everywhere. We've gotten it off of Chewy. You can buy it at stores. Like, please check them out. KineticDogFood.com. Your dog needs these nutrients, and they are really specific to our industry's needs. They have a full line of supplements now. Please check them out. We'll have some soon that we can give away. Go check them out. Follow them on their socials at Kinetic Dog Food. They'll really appreciate that.
All right, we are back. Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bite. Eric and I are doing another kind of answering questions that we get a lot from people. I just was talking about how I start to generalize the hunting behavior for proximity alerts on tracking at the end of tracks, and then building searches and preventing dogs from coming just unfucking capped, and how to get them under control if you've already gotten one that's, got years of reward history on shitty behavior. And then if you're starting a green dog, how to use what I do, and then what a lot of our guests have done, Rigney and Todd Mona and those dudes. I use a little bits and pieces from all of them to create what I believe is a really good way to teach building searches and keep them so I don't have to solve problems. Yeah. So I'm not creating work for myself down the line that's not related to something that's productive. So so we were doing this because last time we did this a couple weeks ago, or about a month ago, I think, the episode was super well received, lots of downloads, lots of questions from Eric and I both, on what we've talked about respectively. So, Eric's going to talk about his triple track, which is a little bit different than the way that I run stuff, but I've done it with him, and I will say that it definitely works.
Yeah. So I'll talk about real quick about how I start tracking. So the system that I'm going to teach you or talk to you about is not really, it's for the dog that's been on the road for a little while. Maybe he's getting a little sloppy, or some bad habits have come up on your end and on their end, or the dog that you're in class with, like they're newer and you need to build some duration or, distance in there, and you need to build up a little bit of self-discovery and the dog where you don't have to put them in a down and go up and point at the start all the time. So what I find is when I'm getting dogs in and we start working, I'll get them tracking pretty much a relatively basic, even short, I don't know, like say 50 yards, type of track. And now I want to kind of really build them up. One of the things that I do when I'm starting out this tracking stuff is so the way I teach tracking is kind of almost like a Schutzen style, where I create a pad, I put food in, I like to use Bill Jack. I put food in there, and then, a little bit of ground disturbance the whole way through, and I'm putting food every 2-3 steps all the way through. And then eventually it's a lot shorter. I never track to a bite except for maybe 1 or 2 times a year. It is always to a toy. And people are like, whoa, you find a human, you got to bite, you got to do bites. No, if you're doing bite work at the end of track, I'm telling you, you're ruining your dog. You need to be doing tracking to a toy, then do area searches, teach area searches, and the dog will then track and trail and put it all together at one. If you're constantly doing bites at the end of your track, every one of you are doing that. Know that your dog pulls and looks around. He comes out and he looks and looks and looks, and he doesn't hunt for a start to the track. It is a fact. So now I track to a toy, and I have dogs from my old department that have over 100 tracks with apprehensions, and I don't track to a person during training. So anyways, we get into this. What I don't like is, and we used to do this all the time, is I hate the ritual of taking the dog out, take him over to the start, put the harness on him, then have him lay down, and then blah, 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 start. Listen, the rituals are for you. The ritual is not for the dog. The ritual, whether you believe it or not, the ritual is for you. What you need to do is you need to get that dog coming out of your car ready to track, hunting from the time he comes out. And so the way I'm going to teach you the stuff I'm going to talk about real quick. So we all know if you're a police officer and you're driving in your cruiser and they call you for a track from a robbery or something, you're high speed lights and sirens. When you get there and get your dog out, he is ready to kill everyone and everything right there. He's looking around. He's barking at people. He's flashing off. He's over threshold before you start. And then you have to go ask a guy, where's the last time you saw him? So maybe he starts tracking in the beginning. Maybe he doesn't. What if the guy is wrong? What if he's lying to you? What if it's a guy who went too far onto the track and is embarrassed and didn't want to know it? So what I do is once I get them started tracking, my start pad is always in the beginning, right outside of the back seat of the car. So I don't track on a harness either. I track under the shoulder. And it's not, there's a bit of a misnomer that under the shoulder, you pull back to keep their head down. That's not it at all. It's not it at all. Harness tracking to me creates too much pulling a lot of times, and it takes too much time to get started. I like to be able to hook that collar, throw it under the leg as they're coming out of the car and go to work. So what I do is I put the start pad right outside the back of the car, back door. The dog comes out and I show him. Sometimes I let them find it, themselves. There's food there. Bill Jack is what I use again. And then when they're eating a trek and they go off tracking, right? Come out, it's right there. Come out, it's right there. Every time they come out, it's right there. I'm hooking the leg as they're coming out of the car, right to the start of the track. When we have a video of this on our Patreon page, as a matter of fact, Ted and I doing it. So then what I do is over time, I move the car back further and further and further. So when the dog comes out of the car, he immediately starts hunting for the start, not looking around. I've done it where I have the guy go lights and sirens and come flying up to the start. When the dog comes out, he immediately starts looking for the start. You're not really reliant on the on-scene officers to tell you where they went, when most of the time or a lot of times they're incorrect. So the dog will tell you, the dog will hunt for that start because it's always been right there. I'll even do it where it's across the street, where the dog's got to come out and cross the street to go over and start hunting, but they come out immediately looking for work. That's why the ritual is stupid. The ritual wastes time. It was a waste of time. Get them out and get them going. So what the triple track does, and this is something that I learned from a dog, actually a dog taught me this. I won't even get into that whole scenario, but I'll tell you how the triple track works. So I start a track and I pick an area. And the reason why I did this was because I started doing this because I needed, I had like 4 or 5 dogs in my kennel and I was pre-training in the area I was tracking, and I needed to preserve space, right? Because I had a bunch of dogs to track ahead. So what I was doing was laying 3 tracks in a row. So the dog would do the first one. I'd put him up. I'd lay another one. He would do this. I'd walk him down to the start. He would do the second one. Then I'd walk him down and he would start the third. All in a row, pretty easy straight line tracks, maybe a row of bushes or a wood line on one side, a curb and a road or something on the other. So it's just a piece of grass, like a long stretch. And I've done it in the middle of a field too. It works there too. But I like to do that so that we're just going straight and we're keeping the dog on task. So now what I do is I'll lay the first track and I'm putting out food. And then at the end of the track is a ball. You can do this with help and you can do this by yourself. So you take him down. He gets his toy. Woo! You step off the track into the road or across the street or whatever it is to not contaminate it. Walk all the way back, put the dog up. Then I walk back to the end of the first track. I step off, like one big step. I lay another pad, some food, lay the food, a second track. And again, these aren't super long, but they're not 30 feet either. So I lay a second track. I put the toy out. I walk across the street, come all the way back down, and I get the dog. Now, so the dog is eating some, if not most, of the food on the first track. Some that have been doing it for a while don't eat any of it, but I still use the food though. I like to use it as little way stations for the dog. So I get the dog out and I hook him up And as they come out, they go to the start of the first track. I don't say anything. I don't talk to them. I just let them go for a walk. And I try to keep them relatively in the area, but I'm not telling them to track. They just naturally do it. They just come out and they start tracking. They will pick up the food that they missed if they're real high food reward dogs. They'll get to the start of the second track, which has a bunch of food on it. So if you think about that, they got to self-discover the first track again. They kind of got rewarded for that by the start of the second track. There's a bunch of food. And as soon as they're eating that, I tell them, track. And off they go on track number 2. They get to the end and they get a ball. I walk them across the street, walk them all the way back, put them up. Then I walk across the street all the way to the end of track number 2, and I step off and I lay track number 3 the exact same. So now I get them out and I bring them back and I just let them start again on their own, right? There's they just find the start of that first track. I don't say anything. And off we go, and they're just tracking. Now, track number 1 is probably pretty clear of food at that point, so they're tracking without food. They get to track number 2. I still don't say anything. They just keep going, and now they're picking up the food that they missed the first time through. When they get to the start of track number 3, they just got more food at the start, so they just got rewarded for doing number 1 and number 2 again. Track. And they do number 3. When they get to the end of number 3, they get a ball. So they did essentially 9 tracks, basically, in the span of time it took to do. Basically ends up being one long one with 3 different segments to it. And you'll see, especially at the start of the third. So like you'll be going through the second track and the dog is kind of tracking, not really Hoover vacuuming, but tracking. And they're not, maybe they're doing it, but they're kind of going slow. And when they get to the start of the third track, every single one of them, wham, head down, doing the track. The change is so obvious because it's the freshest odor.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Because it's aging like the earlier ones are. So earlier ones are aging. Now you're teaching them to go to the freshest,
finding the freshest. Yep, they're 100% correct. Find the freshest odor. So now what we're doing is we're getting a bunch of track in a short span of time. The dogs are building up a little bit of duration because they're starting to gas out depending on how long it is. You try to go like for 300 yards and see how like out of breath you get, right?
That study they released that they talk about how intensive, like how much effort that takes for tracking is insane. Like how hard it is on them. And it was released at the beginning of this year, I remember, but it's super fucking hard on them. So yeah, maintaining the intensity can be difficult. We're going to go ahead and take our next commercial break. We will be back in just a second.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. Please check out our friends Jason and Aaron Perguson at Highland Police K9. If you guys are interested in going to school, if you've come out of the military, you can use your GI Bill to go through their school. They have a pet training school. They have a police training school. They have online courses that you guys can take, such as their K9 supervisor course. You guys can really take that as far as you want with them. They are a veritable fountain of knowledge when it comes to K9. They're located in North Carolina. They're always accessible, always available, and we've had such a long relationship with them. I cannot say enough good about them. So please check them out. If you go to Tactical Police Canine Training, go to their online programs, check them out, use the discount code NARC for 20% off any of their online courses. Guys, that will help you. It'll help you make headway in this industry. I don't know about you guys, but a lot of times when we're talking about dog kennels and their construction, like you don't know where to start. What do I do? What do I add? I need to weatherproof this, waterproof this, pee-proof this. If you guys have checked out Horizon Structures lately, it's unbelievable. They literally have everything that you could possibly need. They can build your kennel with as many holes as you want in it, and they can drive it out to you, set it on your pad, hook it up, and you can move dogs in it immediately, from mild to wild, from one kennel all the way up, from the tiniest of pet runs to the hardest of working dogs. If you can dream it, they can build it. Go ahead and check them out at horizonstructures.com. Go specifically to their working dog area. It's commercial-dog-kennels. Give them a call, 888-447-4337. And of course, check them out on their socials at Horizon Structures, and they will hook you guys up. American aluminum has been such an asset to us. Our officers have their canine inserts. They have organizational lockers for the back of your patrol vehicle. They literally have just now put out an amazing heat system and alarm that integrates with their canine insert. Guys, they do it all. Give them a call. Check them out. It is high quality. It's made here in America. If you go to Easy Rider online, check them out, or give them an email at quotes@AAA-mail.com, or give them a phone call, 800-277-0869, and check them out. We also want to send a huge shout out. He recently passed away. Rest in peace, Brother Deeg. Thank you for our music. Thank you for the permission to use it. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you're doing well on the other side. Thank you guys for listening.
So anyways, we'll have to fix it. So those of you who are wondering what happened, I'm sitting there talking, Ted's talking, and boop, he disappeared. But it's showing that I'm still recording. So anyways, so what happens is now the dog learns to come out of the truck or the car hunting for the freshest odor. It is crazy how well it works. And you can take a young dog that you've been working on tracking, but you haven't really expanded the length of their tracks that much. And you haven't really, really delved into anything super long or super aged. It just starts to, like, their tracking just blows up. This class I'm on now, I did it the 6th or 7th session of them, and man, are they killing it. And here's the thing. One of the dogs in my class is not a food dog. He doesn't like it at all. We still did it with him. The disturbed earth was enough to find a toy. Now, his initial tracks were a little bit shorter than the other ones, but then once he figured that out, we just kept going and going and going. And I did 2 series of it. I don't do it all the time, but I did 2 sessions of it. It was freaking amazing, man.
Hey guys, it's me again, back with some more awesome sponsors. I want to talk a little bit about Ray Allen Canine Manufacturing. Who else in our industry allows us to come to them with ideas as handlers, as dog professionals, and say, you know what, I think I would like to make this, or wouldn't this be a good idea? And they will actually sit down with you and talk to you about your designs. I've got a collab with them on a muzzle, on a leash, and a collar. They're amazing to work with. Their products are top notch. They're made in America, in Colorado, and we love Matt. So give them a holler. Check them out on socials at Ray Allen, the letter K, the number 9, or visit them online at rayallen.com and use our discount code WDR10 RAY for 10% off. Guys, have you visited Dogtra lately? If you go to Dogtra, they have their new online portal, and it's really cool, very user-friendly. You don't have to call them and order them anymore. You can go to mydogtra.com, and they have everything there. You can set up an online profile. They keep your orders. They know what you've used. We use everything, their ball droppers and poppers. We use their e-collars, their 1900S hands-free for our officers, their Q and their 280 for our pet clients. We use all of their products all the time. Eric travels around and does seminars specific to Dogtra, so you can have him come in and teach a class on how to use it. Check them out, dogtra.com, and follow them on their socials. We love kinetic dog food. Ted has been using the large format. It makes excellent tracking treats. He uses it for teaching article indication. It's these huge nuggets of food that you can lay down, grab, put in your trainer's pouch. The quality is excellent. We love Debbie and Dave. We have a great relationship with them. They want to know you. They will talk to you about nutrition, about what your dog's needs are. They'll help get you set up. Their food is available everywhere. We've gotten it off of Chewy. You can buy it at stores. Like, please check them out. KineticDogFood.com. Your dog needs these nutrients, and they are really specific to our industry's needs. They have a full line of supplements now. Please check them out. We'll have some soon that we can give away. Go check them out. Follow them on their socials at Kinetic Dog Food. They'll really appreciate that.
All right, we are back, Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bite. The last segment here. Right before we left, we were talking about the triple track thing that Eric does with food, and about how the last, like, as you get them out, they're looking for work, and that pad is right outside the door. And I was talking about how it's the freshest odor. And Eric, you were talking about how obvious that it makes it. So pick up where you left off.
Yeah, we. So what I noticed is, the reason why, and I'll tell you where this came from, when I laid those 3 tracks for a dog just to save space, when I was getting him to walk him out to the start of track number 2 and then walk him out to the start, he was tracking on his own. I went, fuck, why waste this? But the more I did it, I found that what I was doing is teaching the dog to come out of the truck and start looking for the freshest scent. And if there isn't anything, he's going to track somebody. So when the guy tells you that the deputy tells you, I did not go into the wood line, and he tracks into the wood line and around and all the way back to the deputy's car, you know, he's full of shit. But, so if you have a young dog in there, or an older dog, maybe that hasn't gotten a lot of tracks lately, and he's, you know, maybe dicking off and getting some bad habits, this triple track is a great way to dial him back in a short span of area. And then a young dog who, you know, maybe you haven't advanced all that much. You've kind of been sticking with shorter tracks. You know, you guys get stuck a little bit too long on, like, you know, 100-foot track or 50-yard track. The dog gets to 50 yards and picks up his head. Like, usually this is where it ends. You have been doing too many of those. You need to continuously keep adding distance and moving forward every single session. Just get going further and further. It might be 10 feet. Further and further and further. This triple track, right away. In this class, I'm doing it. I did it about the 6th or 7th tracking session. Dude, it's crazy. It blew them up. So now when they come out of the car, they're hunting for the start immediately, not looking around at all the guys in the class that are standing around. It's brilliant. I love it. So anyways, that's that. What do you got coming up?
I leave Sunday for HRD in
West Virginia.
Moundsville, West Virginia, which is going to be fun. We're going back. We're with the state corrections guys, Kenny Brewer, and those guys are hosting us. So I think we got 15 or 18 teams. So quite a few. It's going to be good. The weather's going to be nice. Thank God. It's going to be raining, but it should be nice. But yeah, outside of that, getting some dogs shipped in here before my last class of the year. I'm going to try and keep it about 8 to 10 dogs, mid-November to mid-December. And then, I'll close out the year. I'm going to Bulgaria right before this last class of the year starts for a project that Alicia and I are working on for some dog importing stuff, which we'll talk about when we're done with it. Other than that, it's rock and roll and working on the 501. We had a dog die in Oklahoma yesterday from heat exhaustion. So, air conditioner went out, dog died. Didn't have a heat alarm. So that's,
inexcusable. I'm telling you, I think you should be prosecuted. The boss who said no. Yep. Failure to lead, you fuckface.
That number, the number of dogs that die in hot cars should be 0.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Right? It should be 0. Number of police and or search and rescue dogs that died.
It's nuts.
0. It should be 0. Other than that, I'm just fucking training dogs, and I forgot. I'm going to be at the Oklahoma Tactical Officers Association thing next month in October. If you're in the Tulsa area, it's a bunch of dudes. Some guys from LAPD are coming to teach our breaching course,
Cool.
which I'm not going to be part of. It's not my thing. I teach dogs to find bombs. I don't use them. So, like,
listen, if you got downtime, go watch them blow the fucking doors up. Though.
Well, it's a working conference. It's actually a really cool. The guy that runs it is a former TPD guy. His name's Jason Muse. It's actually kind of a cool deal. So there's like a vendor night, which I'm a vendor. And then the next 3 days is a working deal, right? So they have some other stuff like scenario planning. It's all special operations based. They have some negotiation stuff. Some guys are taking a 2-day and a 1-day class is separated. There's some classes, the canine one, is being taught by Ryan Fike, who is our one of our troopers. That's a super talented trainer, and it's a 3-day thing. So yeah, I'm going to be at that thing in October. It's going to be cool. If you're in the area and Oklahoma area, southeast Kansas, and southwest Missouri, northwest Arkansas, it will be cool. And then outside of that, I have a couple of other like seminars. Doing a decoy seminar, I think, with Oklahoma City PD, November like 6th, 7th, and 8th or 5th. I don't know. It'll be, I think it's going to be closed anyway, but I'm going to Oklahoma City to do a decoy seminar for those guys. But yeah, other than that, I'm ready for the weather to be fall. I'm tired of summer.
Yeah. I've never said that in my life, but,
it's been rough.
I leave tomorrow. This is a Friday, the 20th, I think. Yeah, I leave tomorrow for Aruba for my vacation for a week.
Oh, nice.
Even though I have a handler school going on, one of the guys in my school that's one of the handlers has been through my trainer's course, and the other one's an experienced handler as well. So they'll handle. There's only one green handler. So, anyways, Van S K9 on Instagram is the easiest place to find me. I answer all my things. Eric at vansk9.com. I also have my jiu-jitsu page called Tap Daddy BJJ. I'm going to start my Tap Daddy BJJ podcast, but probably after I get done with the handler class. Get done with the handler class, and then I can sit down, and it's just going to be me talking about being an old guy doing jiu-jitsu and get other people on there. And, who knows? It's pretty fun right now. I just have stickers, and I haven't made any rash cards yet, but I'm going to. My jiu-jitsu is interesting. I'm having fun with it, traveling around. Every time I go out of town for a seminar, I stop in and do a drop-in. I think I'm at like 20 some schools at this point that I've been to, and I enjoy it all the time. Every time it's a great time. It's weird going and wearing pajamas and getting strangled to death is enjoyable. Actually, it's strange. So yeah, I'm fighting off this cauliflower ear. It's going pretty good. Just draining it with needles. It's doing good. I stick like a 27 gauge insulin needle and suck that thing out, and then I have these magnets that I wear. They're right here. One in there to keep the shape, and one in the back. These sumbitches, dude, are so strong. This little one is trying everything it can to get through my skin of my ear to touch that other one. So about 20 minutes, it feels like there's a lighter to my ear. So I have to move it and constantly move it around. It's ridiculous. I look like I'm trying to build a big gauge in my ear, but I'm not. So yeah, man, workingdogradio.com. We got merch on there. Take a look at it. There's a link to our Patreon if you're interested in that stuff. Ted and I got a bunch of training videos on there. We don't really talk about all this much on here because we have so much going on that we forget, and we get in trouble for that. So make sure you check out get on there, get the link to the Patreon if you want. And that's it. I think the next conference we're both going to be at is Hold the Line in Myrtle. On the next one,
March,
yeah, something like that.
I think so. Yeah,
it's going to be a bit. So we're each popping around. I'm doing my seminars. He's doing his. He's going to that, like the Oklahoma one. I'm teaching something at a seminar in California in January. So we're all over the place. But if you're looking to get a hold of me about my e-collar without conflict, the book. So so the book is she edited it with notes. So I went back in and answered her questions on the notes. So she is fixing based off of what I answered on the notes. While I'm on vacation, I'm going to write the index and the glossary. And then I have someone specific that's doing a forward for me. I'm very honored to have the person do it. And then I am going to get with a publisher, either self-publish or get with a publisher. I think I might do it on Amazon myself. Larry Crone did it, and he said it's easy. So those of you so basically it's my e-collar without conflict class put in book form. It's going to be, for those of you who don't like to read a lot, it's going to be a manual. It's like short, who knows, like 50, 60 pages with pictures. So it's not like a 300 page, whatever. And I'm going to do an audio version of it. So there's no cussing I didn't write any cuss words, not one, I don't think, in the book, but on the audio, different story.
On the audio.
So I don't even know.
Samuel Jackson reads Eric's book.
Yeah. I might do it as an impression of like Darth Vader or something like that.
Yes.
So rest in peace, my man.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's it. Ted_Summers and
Torchlight Canine, Torchlight Pets.
Yep.
Yeah. HRD,
Everywhere.
please Canine, and then working_dog_radio. So yeah.
So any questions based on this? There's a lot. So the info that Ted and I gave, feel free to reach out to us. What's the email address for that?
You can get to me at just ted@torchlightk9.com. That's the easiest way, rather than have to forward it from info at and whatever else.
You can email me, eric@vanscanine.com, because we gave you a lot of information. Some of you can't learn by just listening to us. You got to kind of talk and ask questions, and that's cool. I understand that.
And Instagram and Facebook Messenger don't really lend themselves to nuanced conversations like that. I'm much clearer in email because I'm fucking typing on my computer instead of on my fucking phone.
If you have a topic that you'd like us to address and talk about, let us know, man. Let us know. We can either him and I can talk about, or find somebody that's even better than us at it and bring them on.
That probably won't be hard to find somebody better than us.
Right.
So,
just throw a fucking dart. You'll find
in fact,
somebody.
if we do that, send us a thing. I'm going to have Alicia do that. We're going to have a contest, and I think that's how we're going to give away a bottle of the whiskey from the last episode. How about that? If we use somebody's question.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
So I hope I didn't just violate some liquor law.
Watch for the black helicopters. So.
We'll find out. Anyway, we'll get you a bottle of whiskey if we use your question. Look for that on Instagram. I just made that up. So it'll be something on Instagram. I think you'll be able to go to the website and you'll be able to record something, and we'll use your voice on the podcast. You're like, yo, idiot. So answer this for me, and then we'll do it.
Got it.
So,
all
right, guys.
We'll see you.
Thanks, guys.